This episode is sponsored by Kerkering Barberio, your trusted partner in tax, audit, and outsourced accounting services. Serving Sarasota, Manatee, and the greater Tampa Bay area for over 50 years, KB helps clients achieve their personal and business goals. Visit kbgrp.com to learn more. Hello, and welcome to the Business Observer from the Corner Office podcast. I'm Mark Gordon, managing editor of the Business Observer. Today's guest is Beck Besecker, founder and CEO of 3D Cloud. Beck, welcome, and thanks for being here on the podcast.
My pleasure, Mark. Happy to be here.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about 3D Cloud and kind of what you guys do. You have some really cool and interesting technology, and you've been in the tech space for a while, tech and marketing. Tell us a little bit. I know you did some time in Ohio too. Take us way back. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got to Florida and some of the roles you've had.
Yeah. So our start in business, when I say we, I'm always talking about my brother Barry, who's has been my longtime CTO in several different companies, but we've always been in like the marketing technology space. Our kind of recurring theme is trying to take sort of a pre-existing software that was maybe a desktop solution and move it to the cloud. There's always a huge opportunity when something kind of moves from one medium to the other. So that's kind of been our pattern. But we started, our first company was a company called Copiant, Copient, which was you ever go to a grocery store and you like scan a loyalty card and you might get like a offer on the receipt tape that looks like it's like tracking. You get the big long receipts. Sure. And so it used to be
CVS receipts.
You got it. So it used to be kind of back in the 90s and before, if you wanted to do like a buy one, get one free, that like everybody got the same thing. And then our company, Copiant, was the first company to move that software from kind of the machine that's in the store, the cash register, to the cloud. And so when you scan a loyalty card, we would take all that data, look at your current and previous purchase history, and then give you offers based on your interests. And so we would only give you, offers on baby products if you showed a history of buying, formula and diapers, or we would give you offers based on, Coke or Pepsi if you had a history of buying soda. So we were the first company to kind of move the marketing in the store to the cloud so you could receive those offers on the receipt tape. So we sold that company to NCR in the mid 2000s. And so it's in about 50,000 stores worldwide. So it became kind of the platform for the targeted marketing at the checkout. And then I went to work here in St. Pete, Tampa area at a company called Catalina after a stint at NCR. They do loyalty marketing for brands at the checkout. So that was the connection there. And I ran, the company had just gone from being public to private, and they needed somebody to come in and like run innovation. And so I ran their kind of mobile data. This is like 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in that time range. And so it's helping them move from kind of an analog product to like a digital product. And then we started 3D Cloud in 2011.
And so 3D Cloud, I didn't realize, so it's, you guys are 15 years old, or almost 14 years old, if I could do math right. Tell us about 3D Cloud. It's really an interesting technology that you guys have sort of fostered and grown. You and I talked about this once before. You were early in the industry. So tell us about what you guys do and what that space is.
Yeah, a bad habit of being on the bleeding edge every single time. And there's, we could talk about that more. There's all sorts of benefits to that, but there also is a lot of challenges in being early and first. But my favorite quote is, what's the difference between being early and wrong? Nothing. That's the same. And, 3D Cloud. So the vision for 3D Cloud is, the original vision was, at that time, so this is circa 2010 or something. And you were just starting to see 3D kind of make its way to browsers. A lot of stuff was done on mobile apps or like gaming systems, but there really wasn't like a high quality. You could do like games that were like, cartoony, but there was no way to do like a high quality 3D model that looked like a real product on a browser at that time. And so you could kind of see it coming though, that, bandwidths and 5G and, advancements in the technology. And so we were like, man, it's inevitable that someday every single product page on the internet will be 3D. Like whether it's furniture like we do today, or dog toys, or shoes, or diamond rings and watches, cars. Like it's just a better experience. You can articulate it, you can change it, you can modify it, you can download it, you can share it. So that was the vision. Like there's going to be 3D on every product page. And so then the idea for the business was, if there's going to be 3D on every product page, there's going to need to be some kind of like digital asset management system to like house them, serve them, manage all the business rules.
Be like underneath it. Yeah.
Yeah. Change it from one color to another, swap the finish, change the legs, put stuff together. And then, and so that was the kind of the very big vision. And then the reality was that where the demand came from was the home industry. And that's where we focus a lot of it. So we have now probably 50 plus clients that are in everybody from Lowe's to Ashley to Macy's to Miller Knoll to Raymore Flanagan to, pretty much all the furniture guys, And that was the space who really gravitated to it first. And the reasons are somewhat obvious in retrospect, but one is it's a kind of a high consideration purchase. Like you're thinking a lot about like, hey, am I going to really spend, $12,000 on this sectional? And is it the right size? And is it the right color I want? Does it match? And then there was kind of a fit issue. Is it going to fit? And then there was a configuration issue. And so, and then if you created the 3D model of that couch, it really wasn't going to change all that much. Maybe turn over some 20 or 30% of inventory, but it was going to stick around a while. It had like a shelf life. So those were the components that made the home industry kind of the place where we got our real growth. And then it turned out one of our investors is Rocket Mortgage, which is in the home space. And so that was also kind of like, okay, there's a adjacency here. But now we do furniture, office furniture, kitchen, bath, decking, and closets. So we've kind of just grown. And then we do all kinds of things from room planning to product configurators to AR to anything you can do in 3D. We're pretty much in it at this point.
Well, you hear all the time, or you hear a lot, right, in the tech space when tech companies are looking to get investors, you hear like, what problem are you solving, right? And you guys are solving that problem of people showing up at least you were when you started, they're showing up at stores. Well, what is the couch? How's it going to fit? Is it going to fit through the door? Is it going to be the side? All that stuff that millions and millions of people go. It sounds like you guys really address that issue.
There are two. Yeah, it's really, if you boil it all down, it's like, how do you give the customer confidence to buy? I mean, that's what it comes out to. And that could be, is it going to fit in my space? To, is it going to be the right color? Is it going to match? Or it could be, a lot of customers, especially through COVID, like you would have never imagined somebody like designing their own kitchen unless they were like paper and pencil and, figuring out on their own. But people have, like, the tools are so simple to use now. Like you can tap on a picture of a kitchen and it'll automatically build a version of the kitchen in your space. Like you don't have to like drag and drop every single piece. And so there's so many more people. It's kind of like I'm a big car guy. And before I bought my last car, I don't know how many hours I spent online, like on a configurator.
Right.
And people are doing the same thing. They want, even, months ahead of their kitchen purchase, they love to play and build their own confidence and be a part of the process. And now that it's online and, it's easy to use, you don't have to download any software. You could just go to Lowe's and jump on the app and bop, bop, bop. You're off and running. So it's kind of confidence and then also the chance to like participate in the sale.
What were some, you talked about, you've had some big investors. I don't know if that's part of this answer. Rocket Mortgage, and you've had some others as well over the years. What were one or two tipping points to 3D Cloud that said, hey, again, now I'll do my math right. It's 13 years, but, what were some tipping points that said this is a sustainable business that's going to last?
There were a couple. One was, we probably had 4, maybe 5 years where, we spent a lot of time trying to find a category where this asset management system was going to be valuable. And we did shoes, we did hats, we did events, we did beer bottles, we did we actually wrote the very first AR app on the App Store, like in November of 11. So we did hundreds of products, and a lot of them were kind of, because the technology was new and cool, like brands would go, yeah, I'd love to show my sneakers in 3D. But they weren't going to do their whole catalog. They weren't going to turn it into something they would scale. And so we spent a lot of bloody knees and elbows trying to figure out what was going to fit. And we had a decking client, still a client of ours, it's called AZEC out of Chicago. And we do their online decking configurator, like outdoor decking. And it was really that inflection point where high consideration, a configuration problem, and that whatever we would create had a shelf life to it. And then we started going, oh, wait a minute, like what else looks like that? And of course, that was a lot of other home categories. And then we got our first big investment around CES in 2016. I think we took on $10 million from Dan Gilbert, who owns Rocket, kind of synonymous. And that's when VR started to take off. And we were at CES, and we were doing a big project for Lowe's, and it was getting a bunch of attention. And that's where we were like, okay, this has got some legs. And then we were past that kind of like gimmicky marketing kind of 3D projects and into something that had looked more sustainable. And then, like everything, it just took a lot of iteration. And it's like when you start something, you only see the first 3 or 4 problems ahead of you, and then it always takes a lot longer. But really, the business started in earnest really in 2016.
Yeah. One of the things you and I have talked about, switching gears a little bit, is like, we sort of just touched on it, right? Being better at work and doing different things. I know that's good habits is really important to you. And you and I spoke, I looked on the last story I wrote about you for the Business Observer. It was February 2020. So obviously things changed considerably after that. But you told me about a book that you were working on. I believe that book is out, the Good Works Habit Toolbox. Tell us about the Good Works Habit Toolbox and what that is.
So it actually came out of, we had just the nature of our company. When you're a smaller, earlier stage company, like, it tends to attract a very certain type of person. And it tends to be people who are pretty much out of school or a year or two out of school, predominantly male, and a lot of engineering, type roles. And people who can go without maybe making a full paycheck, maybe even like health benefits for a while. And so early in the company, I found myself basically having to help train, develop employees to become employees. And so we'd created this like series of workshops, and they were all about all sorts of different habits, or all different topics, like how to prepare a presentation, how to write a good scope, how to follow up after a meeting. And they were really like basic things. And over 10 years, it turned into a pretty big body of work. And then my head of marketing, Sonia, who's fantastic, for one holiday, Christmas, she put together a little manuscript of all of them together and said, I think this could be very useful to people out there. And it kind of coincided with COVID, and turns out I wasn't traveling as much, and you got to have something to do in the evenings. And so it kind of turned into a little bit of a pet project, and then turned into a book and got a publisher. But it's really geared towards helping people who are in kind of either in the very early stages of their career, kind of build their building blocks of good habits, communication, organization. And then, I talk a little bit about how to, good cultural habits, how to be a good part of an organization. And so it's really targeted towards, sort of newer graduates or people who kind of hit a block in their career and they can't figure out how to get to the next step.
Yeah. How did people, I'm sure it's varied, but how have people responded to that over the years, right? Are there some engineers that are like, nobody's going to tell me how to do this, or are they more apt to embrace it? What's sort of been the spectrum of that?
It's been pretty well embraced. We have in our company, we call them cultural habits. And so I'll give you an example. We don't talk about like principles or platitudes in the company, like, yeah, be honest. Like that's kind of like table stakes. So that's like, to me, the way you create a culture, and I've kind of stolen all of my thinking from Dan Gilbert at Rocket and modified it for us, but is you build a series of habits in the company that everybody does together. So for instance, everybody in the company sends me a 5x5 on Fridays. It's 5 things I accomplished this week, my 5 goals for next week. Super simple, takes 10 or 15 minutes. And it does a couple of things. One is it's a great way to stay connected. Turned out to be huge in COVID because I was able to kind of stay connected to the employees who are kind of over 100 now. But the real message behind the 5x5, other than that, it's pretty basic self-organization tool, is it communicates it's important to be consistent. And I can tell pretty quickly after we hire somebody, if they drop off their 5x5 in the first couple of months, they're missing the consistency gene. Because it's pretty much the easiest organizational thing you could possibly do. And so it says, A, you're allowed to talk to me without going through your boss. B, be consistent. And 3, be self-organized. And so we all do that together. And without having to, run around saying to everybody, be consistent, communicate well. It's just embedded. We also on Fridays, we have a thing called, we have an all team meeting every Friday. And it's about a half hour, 40 minutes. And the whole meeting is, the first half of the meeting is, we just ask a funny question. Everybody, it's just a way to get to know each other. Like, who was your high school celebrity crush? Because that kind of stuff. It gives us a chance to laugh and kind of be together. And then we spend the second half of the meeting doing shout outs where it's like, hey, I want to take a minute to shout out Mark. He did a great job QAing that product and he worked a bunch of late hours. And so, showing gratitude, being thankful, knowing you're not doing it alone. And so I don't have to tell anybody that's our value, show gratitude, be thankful. But when the new employee gets in the meeting, they just join in. Oh, I'd like to shout out somebody. So that's how we have done it. We just infused it into kind of our shared habits. And that's how we kind of keep it going.
That's amazing. I love this 5x5. Does everybody still do 5x5 today? Like you mentioned Sonia, your head of marketing. My friend Sonia, who I've known for almost 20 years. She's one of the first people I met in Lakewood Ranch in 2006, I think, or 5. Anyway, does Sonia do a 5x5? Everybody does that?
She does. Actually, she was the one who started it. And I liked it so much, I instituted it. And I tell you, one of the nicest things about that, and so I spend my Saturday mornings with a cup of espresso and I get through them in about an hour. It doesn't take me very long. And the nicest thing about that is I get to say thank you. I get to say nice week. Thank you for your work. What other people do, which is cool, is they'll embed a little personal thing, which is nice. Going to a Taylor Swift concert or whatever, or say, hey, I don't know if you know, but Jim is having a tough time. He's got some, so you're aware. Or, hey, if you didn't see it, Jim killed it on that project. So people will like give me little things to say so I can go back around to that person and say, hey, I'm hearing you're killing it. So it's just a nice way. And I'm honest with you. Like, I don't know, without the all team and the 5x5, COVID would have been a lot harder.
Yeah.
That it kind of glued us a little bit. Being
Sounds
so far
like
apart.
For sure. So, and you mentioned on the sort of tipping points, raising money. If you're talking to other, that's something that a lot of entrepreneurs hope to get to some point where they're able to raise money, but and some obviously are successful. What are some tips and must-dos for startup entrepreneurs looking to raise money?
Well, raising money is. A lot of people think that like that's the first thing you do. And that is definitely not the case. If you raise money early and you don't have a good product market fit, you're going to end up giving away a lot of equity over time. as you meander your way through product market fit. So the best order of events is to, prototype, test, get a first client, validate some reception, like get some credibility in the thing that you're trying to build. And before you go out, because investors are basically risk managers, right? It's like, what is the likelihood? For me, I'd already started 2 other companies, several of which the investors were already involved in. And so I could go with just me and my brother and go, I'd like to raise money and here's my loose idea. But they got to know you and you've got to have some history. So if you're brand new and you don't have a track record, build it, stay skinny, stay slim, build it, test it, validate it, get a customer before you even think about raising money. And you may, what you end up with may be very different than what you started. And then I'd say once you're past that kind of some form of product market fit, there's lots of different types of investors from, friends and family, kind of angels stuff, which can be a good way to go. And then there's kind of, when you get into the VC space, there's kind of the traditional VC, that has kind of a, they've got a thesis they work on, like, okay, we're going to raise this much. It's going to, have this multiple, 1 out of 10 are going to be successful. It needs to exit within this period of time. That's one way to go. And there's lots of competent, helpful VCs out there. And then another way to go is more like family funds, or like what we've done, so our other big investor is Arnie Bellini, who started ConnectWise, which sold a couple of years ago. And he and Dan Gilbert are basically the same person. They're self-made entrepreneurs, built a company over a long period of time, went public or sold it. And now they're kind of in that next phase of their life where they're like, they give back. How do I help? I personally, if you could do it with former entrepreneurs rather than like what I would call professional investors, my experience has been that's been pretty doggone good. They're patient. They're not thinking about, I got to cash this thing out tomorrow. You can go through some dips and valleys. They know, like, sometimes, if you go to a big investment fund, a big VC fund, you get a lot of spreadsheet guys. I don't mean to be negative, but here just, they just haven't operated. And so they'll often say things like, well, last quarter when we had our board meeting, you said you were going to do this. Well, everything changed. And then you had to change with it. It's like the reality of operations that the guys who've been there they get that. And man, radical transparency. Whoever you choose to work with, you're not smarter than they are. They've done it a million times. You're not going to snow anybody. Like, good news, bad news, share it all, share it fast, build credibility that you're not a person who's going to hide stuff. That's the worst thing you could do.
Yeah, I don't know Dan Gilbert. I know who he is. I've never met him, but Arnie I've met, and it's an overused word in business, right? But he's so authentic, right? Arnie is exactly who he is. He's right in front of you. He's very sincere and genuine.
Oh yeah, 100%. And Dan is exactly the same. I've found those guys that when you get into the B's as a person, like, there's the guys that are on their way up, right? And there's a little bit of a BS factor as you kind of once you get into the B's, you don't care about impressing somebody. You just become that, and they've always been that way. And so they just Dan told me one time, he was like, whatever you were, when you get to be that successful, you just become more of yourself. You're either more helpful, more motivated. Like both those guys, like we'll have a conversation like on a board meeting, and they'll be like, hey, this is great. Are you guys doing anything in the community this quarter? Like, what's your community effort? What are you volunteering for? Like, you would never hear that out of a traditional investor, right? But these guys are thinking about, I'm investing in a group that's in my community, that's giving back to my community, that's creating new companies. Like, they're thinking about the legacy and the lineage of it, which is super cool.
Yeah. Well, sticking with that, I'm wondering, it could be from maybe Dan or Arnie, maybe somebody else in your life. What is a piece of leadership advice that has stuck with you your entire career?
I've had probably 4 mentors sort of through my career that, at different stages. And, I think the biggest kind of recurring themes that I hear over and over, and I guess I would feel like I kind of have validated them myself, is like the curiosity is like really important. Like you've got to just, if I'm talking to a future entrepreneur here, like if you're not just insanely curious about how the market works or how things work or how people work or how a retailer works or how it's going to be installed, like you just have to be just almost like ravenously curious about solving the problem. You're just tearing it apart and pulling it apart and trying to create patterns and understanding. So just be super curious. Humility is a big part of it. Like, the smartest people or most successful people I've been around, like they kind of like know they're not smart. They know there's more. It's like the people who are absolutely sure of everything, or they're like, those are the ones you have to watch out for. Like, it's like the people that are like, who will start their sentences like, listen, I have an idea. I don't know if this is right. Right. And we need to go check some sources, or maybe I can help you find somebody else. But they never speak with like this certainty. It's always this questioning of like, could we do it this way? Could we do it this way? How do we test? It's never like, well, this is how you do it. Like you never hear that out of them. And I don't think they want to hear that out of you. It's just, I don't have all the answers, and but I'm going to ask enough questions to kind of get there. And then I think that the third thing that is probably courage is like a recurring theme. That you just can't sit and analyze forever. You got to jump with limited amount of information. And that's kind of how it works. You kind of like, I think I know how to solve this problem and for whom I want to solve it for and how much I can try. And then you jump, and then you get kind of like some percentage of the way there. And then you realize you're totally wrong. You're like, oh my God, we're idiots. But I got this far. And so the next investment doesn't seem like that much further. And then you kind of do that and you're like, oh, I'm still an idiot. And then, but you kind of just, once you kind of get into it, you start to get, it's like, okay, I'm this far, I might as well keep going. And it helps you kind of get to the next stage, but you've got to have the courage to like go in, not knowing what you don't know and try to figure it out along the way.
Yeah. Cause you're right. You never would have been halfway there if you hadn't tried it all. Well, we got a couple of rapid fire questions at the very end. Before we get to that, just bring us back to 3D Cloud. We're coming toward the last quarter of 2024. What can we expect from 3D Cloud in the marketplace this year and into next year?
So we're really excited on a couple of, one, we've done really well in furniture. That was kind of our starting point. We just signed a new partnership with Citi, big Florida company out of Miami. Pretty excited about that. They've got a really young, dynamic CEO there, second generation, guy named Andrew Koenig. It's going to be fun to work with. So excited about that project. And then kitchens is a place where we've kind of gone from, I don't think very many people saw us coming, and we've won some really, really big deals. Big, DIY type companies that, so we're really excited about that. And what's great about that is we're starting to unlock a lot of these tools for homeowners and pros who would have had to pay for this or wouldn't have access to it. And so we're pulling it out of the store experience and moving it to the cloud, obviously. And so I think kitchens, we're gonna do some real damage there. So that's pretty exciting.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, Beck, we got 3 rapid fire questions. We're going to start with we're going to work our way up. I wouldn't say the hard one at the end, but start easy. Beach or mountain vacation? What would you prefer?
I just got back from Lake Tahoe and never been there before. Man, is that place pretty. And the mountains were beautiful, no humidity. My wife is from Puerto Rico, so we always end up at the beach. So it's always a split decision.
Well, that sounds amazing. Mountains, as we're recording this in mid-August, is when humidity drops a little bit, we all get excited. So a mountain vacation sounds amazing. What is the most used app on your phone?
Google Tasks. I'm on it constantly, just organizing, planning, prioritizing. Yep.
Google tasks. And the third one is new, specific to you for something you said before. Two-pronged question. You mentioned you're a car guy. What's the funnest, best, most amazing car you've ever owned? And what is a car that, like a bucket list car, you would love to own someday?
So you're good timing. So when my boys are 19, they just finished their first year of college.
Right.
And I live downtown St. Pete. They went to Shorecrest, which is about 3 miles away. So for the last 4 years, I didn't have a car because I can walk to my office. And so I bought them a Jeep.
Right.
And I'm kind of a Jeep guy. And they finally out of the house. And so we only have 2 parking spaces. So I finally get my car. And I got an Audi TT RS, which is one I've always wanted. And it's a fun basically it's like a little go-kart, but really enjoying it.
And what's a car you'd love to own someday? Like when you look at like, what's a fantasy, man, wouldn't it be awesome to own that car someday?
I don't know. They always do those car shows in downtown St. Pete in those 1950s silver Porsches that kind of look like James Bond might drive it.
Yeah, the sleek one.
Yeah, something like that. Maybe someday. I don't know.
All right, keep doing those 5x5s. You'll get there. Beck Besecker, founder and CEO of 3D Cloud. Thank you so much for joining us on the From the Corner Office podcast.
It's my pleasure. Hopefully this future entrepreneurs out there can find some value out of this. So best of luck, guys. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Business Observer From the Corner Office podcast. I'm your host, Mark Gordy. This podcast was produced by Reed Corley of the Corley Company in Sarasota. To hear more episodes of From the Corner Office podcast, go to businessobserverfl.com.